From far away, Junpei heard the bell ring. It did so only once. It was 1 a.m. He jogged through the entrance of the large hospital room to find 6 of the others already there. Ace, Santa, Clover, June, Seven, and Lotus. They had gathered in front of door number 8. Or perhaps, to be accurate, they had gathered in front of the red next to door number 8. Had one of them found the missing piece? What happened, guys? It was June who answered him.
Jumpy, look.
She was pointing at the red. He pushed through the others until he stood in front of it. Immediately, he knew what she had meant. The display on the front of the red read vacant. Junpei sighed. Come on, guys, who was it? I thought we were supposed to yell if we found it.
Well,
Junpei wondered why she was hesitating. The others looked as confused as June, but kept their mouths shut. What the hell? What is up with you guys? They all knew something he didn't, and Junpei wasn't about to leave things that way. Finally, Lotus frowned and spoke. Well, that's the thing. We don't know. You don't know? When I got back, it was already like this. There was no one else here. That means I was the first one back, but the missing parts were already back in the red. Junpei looked at the bottom of the red again, just to make sure. The slot that had been open on the bottom was now covered with metal. Clearly, whatever had been missing had been returned. What about the other 2?
They're the same.
Junpei quickly examined the other 2 boxes. Satisfied that they were also repaired, but still very confused, he returned to the others. Alright, I just want to be sure here. Nobody has any idea what the hell happened here, right? Ace and June nodded silently. Seven raised his hands after to say, not me, and Santa just shrugged. Only Clover lowered her head and did nothing. Huh? Wait a minute. That was when he noticed. Where's Snake? Junpei swept his eyes across the room a second time, but Snake was nowhere to be seen. Does that mean he found them? I have no idea. There's nothing to suggest it, but nothing to suggest he didn't either.
I don't suppose we'll know until we can ask him in person.
Well, whatever he did or didn't do, he's pretty damn late. What the hell is he up to?
Maybe he's just lost.
Yeah, well, that seems likely. Dude can't see. I don't know how he gets around in the first place. Clover raised her head.
No, that's impossible!
Suddenly she was shouting.
Yeah, my brother's blind, but he's got really great hearing. He can get around as well as anyone who can see. So he couldn't get lost. That's impossible.
Clover started to shake, and the knuckles of her hands had gone white. She spun around, but before she did, Junpei noticed tears welling up in her eyes.
I'm gonna go look for him!
The words were barely out of her mouth when she began to run. Hey, hold on, Clover, wait! Junpei cried out to her, but he was too slow. She kept going, and before anyone else could react, she was gone. Damn it. What should we do now?
Well, the red is working now. No, we're not leaving 2 people behind. We should go look for them.
Oh man, this ain't good. Oh yeah, what an excellent idea. We just wasted a bunch of time looking for some piece of electronic junk. Now let's waste some more by looking for a couple of idiots. Then remain here if you feel you must, but there's no time. We've only 5 hours left. Junpei and the others nodded to one another and took off at a run. In front of the stairs that led to B deck, they decided to split up. They quickly assigned search areas and went their separate ways. Soon only 2 of them were left. Those 2 were Junpei and June, who had been a few steps behind the others. Alright, we should go too.
Yes, let's go. But where should we start?
Let's see. So these choices, they don't matter at all. It's just some character building. Let's go, let's check the first class cabin on B deck.
Alright, sounds good.
They took off up the stairs at a run. Opposite of the first class cabin, they found Clover. She was standing in front of the wall. She was staring at a meaningless point on the wall, her eyes blank. What should Junpei do? Well, let's talk to her. Maybe we can make her feel a little better. Are you alright? He did his best to sound friendly, but Clover didn't respond. Look, I know you're really worried, but, He could think of no words to say that didn't sound hollow and fake. Junpei hesitated. Clover was so consumed by worry and fear that Junpei feared it would crush her. Her actions didn't surprise him. She had suddenly lost her brother, who she seemed to have been very close to. Hello? Her voice was thin and barely audible. Hello? Hello?
I said, leave me alone!
Suddenly she was screaming.
You're so annoying! Just go away and leave me alone! Just looking at you guys is pissing me off! Go away, okay? Just go somewhere else! Stop bothering me!
Junpei was taken aback. Such anger and hate. June's eyes had gone wide with surprise as well.
Why are you still here? Didn't you hear me? Fine, forget it. If you aren't gonna leave, then I'll just...
Alright, let's go, June.
Yeah.
They turned and left Clover. As they did, Junpei glanced over his shoulder to see Clover wiping tears from her face. Clover had driven home the misery of their situation, but Junpei told himself that getting depressed would get him nowhere but depressed. For Clover's sake, they had to find Snake, and fast. He did his best to push away the misery and depression and forced a smile. So, where do you think we should go next? Let's check the hallway with all the rooms. Maybe he's still in there. Why don't we go back to C-Deck? We can take a look at that hallway with all the rooms.
Okay, let's get going then.
Together they ran down the stairs. Ahead of them, farther down the hallway, they spotted Ace. Hey, Snake! Where are you? Answer me if you're there! Junpei paused. What did he want to do? Well, let's go ask Ace. With June in tow, Junpei jogged up to Ace. Hearing their footsteps, he turned to greet them. Ah, hello there. Snake is... oh, well, that's obvious, isn't it? I assume you haven't found him yet either? Junpei nodded.
I really wonder where he could have gone.
Well, wherever he's disappeared to, we must find him as quickly as we can, for Clover's sake.
Right.
June's face looked kind of enraptured. By the way, do you think Clover and Snake are really siblings? Why would you say that? Why would you say that? The question seemed somehow odd to Junpei. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? They don't look alike at all. Ace looked at him for a moment and then spoke. Yes, you know, now that you mention it, they don't. Now that you mention it. Still, there are a great many siblings who do not look like one another. It certainly isn't rare. Junpei wasn't sure why, or even if he was seeing what he thought he was, but he could have sworn that Ace's face tightened as he spoke. At any rate, we must find Snake as soon as possible. The clock is ticking. We really can't afford to waste any time. Very well. Let's get back to the search, shall we? You can leave this area to me.
All right. Let's go, Junpei.
At June's urging, they left. They found themselves back at the stairs, but Junpei's mind was in turmoil. There was so much to think about, but no, it would have to be put aside for now. As Ace had said, finding Snake was their top priority. Junpei did his best to clear his mind. Alright, where should we go next? Only place we haven't gone, the casino. Let's take a look around the casino.
Okay, let's go.
They turned and headed toward B-Deck. Before they knew it, they were there. So was Lotus. She was leaning against the wall, examining her nails. Hey, what do you think you're doing? She glanced up at him, unimpressed.
Isn't it obvious? I'm looking for Snake.
I'm just not seeing it.
Really? Maybe you need to look harder.
Junpei didn't think that was the problem.
Oh, by the way, I've got a proposal for you two. Care to hear it?
Sure. What is it?
Well, I don't like to beat around the bush, so I'll get right to it. Why don't we team up?
Team up?
Yeah. What, you need me to explain it to you? I'm saying, why don't we go through a numbered door? Even if we wanted to, that's impossible.
Why?
Junpei's bracelet number is 5, mine is 6, and yours is 8. Our digital route would be 1.
That works out.
But there's no number 1 door in the large hospital room. The only doors there are 3, 7, and 8.
Then we add another person.
Huh?
Who? What? Isn't that easy? 7. She was right. If they added 7, then the 4 of them could go through the number 8 door. But, whoa, hold on a sec. What about the other 4? Why don't you add them up? That was simple enough. The digital root for those 4 will be 1. That's right. And you know the number 1 door isn't in the big hospital room, right? Of course I know that.
No, are you saying you leave them behind?
Of course not. What kind of woman do you think I am? Once we get off the ship, we could come back and rescue them, couldn't we? We wouldn't really be leaving them behind.
Don't try to lie to us. I don't think you'd do anything of the sort.
Really? Why do you think that?
You remember, don't you? We have less than 5 hours left. Even if we manage to escape, there's no way we could come back to rescue them in less than 5 hours.
Well, you never know until you try. No. You're not thinking this through. Even if we brought 7 with us, we wouldn't be able to get off the ship. The 4 of us couldn't open door 9.
It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. The digital root for us 4 would be 8, so we'd have to add Ace to make 9.
Right. Unless we bring Ace too, we'll be stuck. Lotus scratched the back of her ear.
Oh,
Well, that's unfortunate. She didn't sound particularly bothered by what Junpei said. Nor did she seem particularly surprised.
Well, let's try and find another way, okay? A way to get out of here with all 8 of us.
That's impossible. Are you being serious? You do know that only 5 people at most can go through one of the numbered doors, right? The number 9 isn't going to be an exception to that rule. Regardless, at least 3 people will get left behind. You're right, that is true. The moment he said it, Junpei felt a chill run down his spine. It was true. How Lotus could remain so cavalier about such a terrifying prospect was beyond him. When they found the number 9, they would have to choose which 3 of them would die. Lotus's forehead furrowed.
Do you think I could have a moment alone? There are some things I need to think about.
Junpei and June turned and began walking away from Lotus. Talking to her had left them feeling ill. Junpei's heart felt heavy and his steps sluggish. But he told himself pessimism would get him nowhere. So he forced himself to smile and turned to June. Let's just focus on finding Snake for now, okay?
Yeah, you're right. We can think about those other things later.
Junpei nodded. Alright, where should we go next? We looked everywhere else. Let's just go back to the hospital room. Hey, why don't we get back to the big hospital room?
Sure, let's go.
They took off at a run down the stairs. On their way to the large hospital room, Junpei and June noticed Santa standing next to the number 3 door. Junpei paused. Let's talk to him. Junpei and June walked up to Santa. What are you doing? What, you can't tell? I'm checking out the red.
Why? Is there something bothering you?
What, it's not bothering you? Huh? The guts of this red. Why wouldn't you wonder who the hell put it back in there?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm curious too, but...
Who do you think did it? Santa's eyes narrowed as he looked at June. She shook her head.
I don't know.
Well, what about you, Junpei? Who do you think fixed this thing for us? Well, I guess it has to be Snake, right? None of us did it. Maybe he got back here before any of us. He found the parts somewhere, put them back, and then went through one of the numbered doors. No, that's not possible. You have to authenticate with at least 3 people or the red won't open the door. There's no way a single person can get through there by themselves. Yeah, I guess you're right. It was a stupid mistake, and Junpei knew it. How he made such a foolish miscalculation, and how had Santa noticed it so quickly? Perhaps he just wasn't as clever as he used to be. Junpei shook his head sadly. So in other words, one of us is the person who fixed the red. Santa grinned. Bingo! We have a winner. But if that's true, then the person who did it doesn't want the rest of us to know. They fixed the red. Yeah. But why? No idea. Maybe if they come clean on that, it means we find out something else. Something bad. Something bad? Dunno. But whatever it is, it's gotta be worth hiding. Of course, it could have something to do with Snake's disappearance. You think maybe they did something to Snake? It's not out of the question. Junpei stared at Santa. There was something about him that made Junpei wary. At first, he's assumed the other man wasn't terribly clever, but Junpei was beginning to think he would need to reevaluate that assessment. When Santa spoke again, his voice was quiet. Look, if you trust anybody in this game, you're gonna lose. You've got to be careful. The person you trust the most could turn out to be the one who stabs you in the back. With that depressing suggestion, he turned quietly and walked away. Junpei and June looked at one another and smiled awkwardly. Where would they go next? Yeah, we're done looking. They looked everywhere they could think of, but Snake was nowhere to be found. Lotus looked around at 6 frustrated faces and spoke. We can't keep looking for Snake. Wherever he is, it's not here. We need to get moving. Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. There was no point to wasting any more time. The others seemed to be having similar thoughts, but they stayed silent. Finally, 7 spoke.
We don't got a choice. Lotus is right. We're not gonna find Snake. There's a problem, though. We've got to figure out who's gonna go through which door.
Yes, I have a proposal. She walked back and forth across the room, her heels clicking against the wood. Finally, she stopped. Why don't we decide on one person to sacrifice? Sacrifice? Well, perhaps that's a bit of a harsh word, but yes. You've all figured it out by now, haven't you? We can't all make it through those doors. If we split into 2 teams of 3 and 4 people respectively, then the 3 people will be left behind. If we split into 2 teams of 5 and 2 people respectively, then 2 people will be left behind. But if we split into 2 groups of 3 and leave 1 person out, then only 1 person will be left behind. Leaving behind 3 people with 2 teams of 4 and 3. You did the math on this? It turns out she's right. For the numbers 3, 7, and 8, and out of the people that are here, any group of 4 that can go through a door would leave the other 3 stranded completely. It wasn't pleasant, but she was right. There wasn't any way that the numbers worked out. If one group was 4, the other group would always have a digital route that didn't match any doors. When 7 spoke, his voice was strained.
Then, you're saying we gotta decide who's gonna stay behind?
Yes, we do. Given our circumstances, it's logically and morally the best solution. If the other 6 are to survive, then 1 person has to sacrifice themselves.
No, that's too cruel.
What's so cruel about it?
To just sacrifice someone like that?
Well, then what's your plan? Maybe we should sacrifice 2 people instead of just 1?
That's not what I meant. We shouldn't sacrifice anyone.
I told you that's impossible. Wake up! Whoa, calm down, you 2. Santa stepped in between Lotus and June. Look, what Lotus is trying to say is that you should aim to bring the greatest amount of happiness to the greatest amount of people, right? Exactly. That's how democracy works. And for that reason, I think the only fair way to decide who will be sacrificed is through a vote. What do you think?
No, that's terrible.
I'm not asking you. Shut up. What about you, Santa? Me? Well, I agree, I guess. Alright, that's 1 vote for. Counting mine, that's 2. 7.
I can't say I agree with you, but we don't exactly have a choice. If we don't do something, we're all gonna die.
Glad to see you get it. If I can get 1 more vote, then it's decided. What about you, Clover? Clover moved away from the group and was sitting on one of the beds. Her whole body drooped. Junpei didn't know if she'd even heard Lotus's proposal. Lotus walked over to Clover and gently laid a hand on her shoulder. Your brother has to be behind one of the numbered doors. We searched everywhere, but we didn't find him. Doesn't that mean he has to have gone through one of them doors somehow? Clover slowly lifted her face. Let's go look for him together, okay? If we sacrifice 1 person, then we can go look for him. You agree with me, right? Clover nodded once. The motion carries. Lotus spun around and walked toward Junpei. Now, let's start a vote to... That won't be necessary. Ace had barely spoken for Lotus's entire speech, and everyone jumped a little. 6 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. He didn't seem to notice or even care. I will stay. That should solve our problem, yes?
Ace, what are you saying? No, you can't do that. That won't solve anything.
June's voice shook, and she looked around desperately for someone to agree with her. Ace simply looked at her. June, I'm afraid you may have misunderstood me. I said I would stay, but I never said I would sacrifice myself.
Huh?
I trust you, each and every one of you. I believe you'll come back for me. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's optimistic and then there's just nuts. Those doors only go one way. You go in and you don't come out. If we go through them... You won't be able to return, correct? Yeah. True. But that will not be the case once you've escaped from the ship. What? Please, I beg you, once you've escaped, come back and rescue me. Ideally within the time limit Zero has given us.
No, that's ridiculous. There's no way we could get back in time.
Finally, Junpei can hold his tongue no longer.
We've only got 5 hours left. We don't even know where the hell we are. How on earth are we going to find someone to come and rescue you?
Then perhaps you would prefer to stay instead of me? Or perhaps you would be willing to leave June behind? Ace's voice was dignified, and without a hint of cruelty or malice. Junpei had no rebuttal. You see, there's no other choice. Then I see we've come to our conclusion. Go on. Don't worry yourselves about me. Go, quickly. Junpei stood frozen by indecision, unable to move. June bit her lip so hard that Junpei feared she would break the skin. Santa stood against the wall, calm and aloof. Seven tore his beanie from his head and turned it over anxiously in his hands. Only Clover stared at Ace with an expression Junpei was unable to decipher. Lotus's attitude, however, was different from the others.
Good. Let's accept his kind offer, then.
She smiled, her eyes bright. Ace answered with a smile of his own. Good. I think this is the best for me. Perhaps I'll be able to take a nap. Perhaps it's my age, but I get tired so easily these days. As he spoke, Ace lowered himself down to the floor next to one of the beds. From somewhere deep in the ship, Junpei suddenly heard the screeching of metal on metal. It was almost as if the ship were screaming. Would it really hold until their time limit was up? Already, D-deck was flooded. In the sudden silence, the only sound was the sad, metal wail of the ship. Unsurprisingly, it was Lotus who spoke first.
Well, what are you waiting for? We're just wasting time. Why don't we hurry it up?
As if a spell had been broken, the others all began to talk at once. You're right. We should get going. That's all we can do right now.
7.
Seriously? Honestly, I was getting kind of sick of listening to you guys talk.
You too, Santa? I have to find my brother. Wait, all of you, let's just calm down and think about this. There has to be a way to get everyone out. There has to be. Right, Jumpy? Say something.
Yeah, let's think. There's gotta be another way. His words sounded hollow and fake.
Fine. Forget about it. I'll figure it out on my own.
She spun around and ran toward Ace. He had slumped down next to the bed when June grabbed his arm and pulled.
Come on, Ace. Please stand up. You can't give up yet. We just have to sit down together and think about this. We'll figure out a way that we can all get out of here.
Then it happened. Ace fell forward. He slumped onto the wooden floor, his body folded in half like a boxer out cold.
Ace!
June cried out and dropped to her knees beside him. She put her arm around his neck and did her best to lift him up.
What happened, Ace? Say something.
She shook him frantically. His eyes fluttered open. I'm all right. His voice was weak and slightly slurred.
How are you fine?
This. He held out his left arm and slowly opened his hand. In it was a syringe and a small vial. The vial was empty. It had only recently been emptied. A few drops clung to the sides. There was a label taped to the side of the container. It read, Soparil Beta. Soparil Beta? Junpei had no idea what it meant or what kind of medicine it might be.
Did you use this?
Yes. It's just anesthetic. I'll be fine.
Anesthetic?
I found it earlier while we were searching the hospital rooms. I thought it might be useful,
later. I didn't think I'd be using it on myself.
Why did you do this?
Didn't I tell you I'd like to take a nap? I really am very tired.
Junpei knew that wasn't why he'd done it. Ace had injected himself with anesthetic to forestall June and Junpei's attempts to bring him along. If he couldn't move, there was nothing they could do. He injected himself so that they would be forced to leave him behind.
Ace.
Is there something you want to say? I just like to sleep a little. Could you keep it down?
No! Don't! Ace, don't fall asleep!
You feel warm. So comfortable.
I think I'll have a nice dream.
Ace's eyelids drooped further and further, almost as though he were dying.
Ace! Ace!
She shook his shoulder again and again, but this time he didn't respond. Only the gentle rising and falling of his chest told them he was still alive. Junpei was relieved to see he was, in fact, still breathing. He lifted Ace up off the floor and laid him on the bed he'd been leaning against. When Junpei turned around, Lotus gave him a look of pity. Well, we really don't have a choice now. We can't let his sacrifice go to waste, right? She wasn't feeling any remorse. Junpei was sure of that. Still, he held no grounds upon which to oppose her. It felt wrong, but he had to agree. Then suddenly, Santa spoke. Yeah, but we're not done choosing yet, are we? Huh? What do you mean? Well, we haven't decided who's going in what door. Oh, yes, that's true. Well, enough of this screwing around. Let's decide. You first, Lotus. Which door do you want? I want door number 8. It's the same number as my bracelet number. Got it. You're 8. You're next, 7. Which one do you want? I'll take 7.
I can't get along with that old lady.
What? What did you just say?
Her face distorted by rage. Lotus took a step forward 7. He threw up his hands and made a face like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
Ugh. You're gonna get it next time.
She shot him a glare that would have melted steel, then turned and stalked off. Alright, who's next? Santa's gaze moved across the 3 people and left. Finally, they stopped on Junpei. Junpei, which door do you want? At last, Junpei's mind was already made up.